So we're going to wrap up our discussion on buffer by talking about two aspects of buffer that are quite important, which is the effective buffer range and effective buffer capacity. So range is just the pH values at which a solution can serve as an effective buffer. So not all pH values are covered by a particular buffer. So if you make a buffer using acetic acid and sodium acetate, for example, that's going to work within a certain pH range, maybe around 3.7 to 5.7 roughly, but it wouldn't work as a buffer if you're trying to buffer something in the range of pH 8.5, for example. And then the different pH ranges really depends on the molecules you're trying to buffer. So for example, like in the case of the blood that we had mentioned a few times, the pH of the blood has attained at around 735 to 745. So acetic acid and acetate will actually not work as a buffer. You will have to use some other molecules. And in fact, we use the bicarbonate, carbonic acid, and carbonate system to make the buffer in the blood. So that's what buffer range refers to. Later on, we'll talk about buffer capacity, which is a measure of how much acid or base can be added to a buffer before it will no longer be able to withstand the addition of the acid and base. So I always think about this like a dam, which is shown right here in this picture. If you add enough water, at some point the walls of the dam won't be able to hold back the water anymore and the dam break. So same idea here with a buffer. If you add enough acid or enough base, strong acid or strong base in this case, eventually the buffer won't work anymore. It won't be able to withstand that addition of H plus or OH minus. But we're going to start with discussion about buffer range. And to do this, it's helpful to just do some pH change calculation. Now, the calculations that you're going to do here, it's exactly the same type of calculation that we had done earlier when we're calculating change of pH of a buffer when we're adding a strong acid or a strong base. The problem that we did in a prior lecture was with addition of a base. So for this buffer range and buffer capacity calculations, we're going to do exactly the same thing, which is adding a base to a buffer and trying to figure out what happens to the pH as a result of that addition. So we're going to start with each one of them with a buffer that is given here, okay? The pKa of the weak acid is 5, so you can use your Henderson-Hasselbalch equation to calculate your buffer's pH before and after the addition of the 0.01 mole OH minus. The volume here is made really easy. It's 1 liter, no volume change as the result of the addition of the hydroxide. So again, the goal is just to try to see how different compositions of a buffer will respond to the addition of this hydroxide. Once you do the change in pH calculation, so you want to first calculate the initial pH, which is before you add the hydroxide, and then you also want to calculate the final pH, which is after you add the hydroxide. And then what you want to do is you want to do this calculation called percent change. So we just want to see how big of a change has happened as a result of the addition of the hydroxide. And that's just to take the final pH minus the initial pH divided by the initial pH times 100%. So that equation is given right here. I'm not going to work out this problem for you, but if you watch the previous lecture on calculating pH change, you'll be able to do it. What I do want to do is discuss the results of this calculation. So if you were to calculate it for this first buffer, the one right here, 0.1 mole HA and 0.1 mole A minus, before you add the OH minus, the buffer should have a pH of 5. After you add the OH minus, the buffer would have a pH of 5.09. So if you have those two numbers, you can calculate your percent change, and that ends up being 1.8%. So for that buffer, there's that much change in the pH value. Now, if you start with the second buffer, part B, if you calculate the pH before addition of the OH minus, it is 4.05. After you add the OH minus, the pH is 4.25. And it makes sense that this buffer is more acidic to start with because there's more of the weak acid component compared to the conjugate base, right? So we start with a more acidic buffer. After we add the base, that's the new value. Interestingly, if you calculate the change in pH in terms of percentage, you find that this buffer actually has a larger pH change. It's 4.9%. Now, if you compare those two numbers, the 1.8 and the 4.9, it's clear that the first buffer is a more effective buffer than the second buffer. And that's because there's a smaller change in the percentage of pH value going from initial to final. That might surprise you because remember, we're adding strong base to both buffers. The second buffer actually has more weak acid to begin with. So you might think that if it has more weak acid, it should be better able to resist the pH change when we're adding the strong base. But the key here is that it's not that. The pH of the buffer actually depends on the ratio of the weak base to the conjugate acid. So it's not so much just one component or the other component. What the buffer pH depends on is the ratio, and that's what we see in the Henderson-Hasselbalch equation. The pH depends on the log of A minus over HA. So if that ratio is not optimal, then the change in the pH of the buffer when you add a strong base or a strong acid to the buffer will be pretty significant. In fact, you can test this on a number of different ratios. The best ratio you can have is when the HA and the A minus are equal to each other, which just means that the ratio of A minus to HA is 1. So in other words, the most effective buffer, you think about substituting that back into your Henderson-Hasselbalch equation, pH is equal to pKa plus the log of A minus over HA. If A minus is equal to HA, then this becomes just 1, and the log of 1 is 0. So that means that the most effective buffer is when its pH is equal to its pKa. So if you want to make a buffer that is the best at resisting pH changes, you have to find acid whose pKa is the same as the pH that you're trying to buffer. So again, the pH you're trying to buffer depends on the specific biological systems or some other system that you're interested in, right? Sometimes we need the pH to be around 7.3, like the case of blood. But sometimes for the stomach, for example, where the environment has to be fairly acidic, we want the pH to be much lower. So depending on the specific environment and specific target pH, you're going to have to find the specific compound, weak acid and its conjugate base, that would work for that particular buffer. Okay, now pH equals pKa will give you the best buffer you can get, but that's just one number. So there's actually a range that you can have, and that is Ka plus minus 1. So as long as you're within plus minus 1 of the pKa value, then that would be a reasonable buffer to use. So again, going back to our example earlier of the acetic acid acetate buffer, remember that the pKa of acetic acid is 4.74. So if I want to make a buffer using acetic acid and acetate as my buffer system, then the pH that it will be reasonable to use that buffer in is 4.74 plus minus 1, which means that it will work as long as between 3.74 to 5.74. Okay? So that would work as a buffer, but it wouldn't work if you try to use acetic acid acetate as a buffer at pH 10. At that point, it's just out of range for that particular buffer system. Now let's talk about the idea of buffer strength or buffer capacity. And again, this just means the ability of a buffer to withstand the addition of some quantity of acid or base. And there's a limit for all buffers that we'll encounter. There's some kind of a limit. If you add, say, 10 molar of a strong acid, the buffer will get overwhelmed by that much H plus, right? Same thing if you add 10 molar sodium hydroxide, the buffer will get overwhelmed. So we need to know what is the most effective buffer capacity we can have, right? Now, we're going to do the same type of calculation that we just did with buffer range, trying to calculate the percent change in pH after the addition of 0.01 mole OH minus, but we're going to start with slightly different setups here, which is these two buffer compositions. So the first buffer is half a mole of each of the weak acid and conjugate base. The second buffer is going to be 0.05 mole of each of the weak acid and its conjugate base. Which buffer is more effective? You're going to do the same calculation again. Remember, you want to get your initial pH and get your final pH, and then afterwards you're going to calculate the change in pH in percentage. And if you do that for the first buffer, which is the half a mole one, the initial pH is 5 before addition. After addition is 5.02. So the percent change is 0.4%, pretty small. The second buffer The initial pH is also 5. The pH after addition, though, it's 5.18. So there's a larger percent change of 3.6%. So hopefully when looking at those two numbers, you can tell that the buffer that has more or larger quantity of both the acid and the conjugate base, right, half a mole, those are going to be better able to withstand addition of a strong acid and a strong base. That would make sense, wouldn't it? Because it's a question of just reaction, right? So if I have more of my material that would neutralize the strong acid or strong base, then of course that would work as a better buffer compared to something that has too little of it. It would run out of that weak acid or weak base in the buffer. It wouldn't be able to neutralize that incoming strong acid and strong base anymore. Okay, so as you can expect, the buffer with a higher number of moles of weak acid and weak base would be better, would be a stronger buffer in this case in terms of its buffer capacity. All right, in conclusion, you want to have a buffer that has two components. One is a buffer whose pH is plus minus 1 from the pKa of the weak acid. Secondly, you want to have a buffer that has as large number of moles of both the weak acid and weak base as you can possibly make. Okay, all right, so let's look at this example here to see if we can figure out how to create this buffer. So the question says, which of the following acid would you choose to create a buffer with a pH of 7.35? If you had 500 milliliters of 0.1 molar solution of the acid, what is the mass of the sodium salt of the conjugate base which you need to make the buffer, assuming total volume doesn't change when you add the solid salt? Well, let's start with the first part of the question, just which of the following acid would you choose? Okay, so that goes with the idea of buffer range. So we're trying to make a buffer for a target pH of 7.35. So we're trying to find something that has a pKa value around that number, at least plus minus 1 from that number. So if you look through the 4 different acids that are given to us, the one that is closest to that number is hypochlorous acid, which has a pKa of 7.54. So that would be the one that I would choose in this. That's nearest 7.35, right? Remember, we wanted ideally pH to equal pKa, but as long as the pH is plus minus 1 from the pKa value, the buffer will still work pretty well. The second part of the problem is to calculate the mass. Okay, so this will require you to use your Henderson-Hasselbalch equation. So the idea being that, okay, pH is equal to pKa plus the log of A minus over HA. Now, I know that my pH is supposed to be 7.35. My pKa was supposed to be 7.54 because I'm using that hypochlorous acid as my buffer system. I need to figure out how much A minus I'm adding because that's what it's asking, the corresponding sodium salt of the conjugate base. I know how much acid I have. That's given the question, 500 milliliter of 0.1 molar solution. So as you can see, the only unknown is A minus. So I can calculate that and then convert it to mass using the molar mass of that salt. The way I'm going to do that is first, I'm just going to solve for this log term right here. Okay, so I'm going to isolate that log term. The A minus here really is this guy, right? ClO minus, and then the acid or the HA is HClO, and then that should equal to pH minus pKa. And so if you subtract pH from pKa, you get negative 0.19. And if you take out the log portion and just get the ratio, ClO minus over HClO, you get 0.646. So that means that to get that particular pH, the ratio of the base to the acid has to be 0.646. Well, I know that the concentration of the HClO, 0.1 molar, I was given that information in the question. So that means that I can solve for the ClO minus concentration by multiplying 0.1 molar with 0.646, which just gives me that number, 0.0646 molar. Now I can convert the concentration to number of moles by using volume. The volume is just going to be half a liter. So that's going to give me this many moles of ClO minus that I'm going to take that number of moles and convert it to the mass of sodium salt, which is sodium hypochlorite. And so to do that, I take the number of moles. I use the stoichiometry between NaClO and ClO minus, which we know looks something like this. So it's a one-to-one stoichiometry. And then lastly, I use the molar mass of NaClO and I get 2.4 grams. So the idea is this, right? If I start with 500 milliliter, 0.1 molar HClO, if I add to this thing 2.4 grams of NaClO, after equilibrium, what I will have is a solution with a pH equals to 7.35, my target pH.